put in on for YouTube. You can get going though. It's a little slow on the YouTube end.
Okay, so I'll call the select board meeting to order on July 10th at 6:30 p.m. Everyone's here except for Al Hamilton. So hi, everybody. We haven't done a Zoom meeting in a while. Okay, so this, so the first hour is going to be just us, and then advisory is going to join us at 7:30. So they'll have to call their meeting to order also. The Tricentennial Committee is about, at least a piece of them are about to join us, so they will call their meeting to order. Okay, so I'm going to turn, the first topic is, we've talked about this before, which is to, again, try to streamline some of the committees, is to reduce the scholarships and stewardship committees from 7 to 5. So we've got some information that was in our packet as far as their genesis, and I'm going to turn this one over to Sam for a discussion.
Thanks. As I looked at those historical records of these two committees, it seems to me it's worth updating those to actually have a specific charge for each committee, which we don't seem to have for either of those, and to part of the process to reduce the number of members from 7 to 5 for them, as I think the committees have requested. And also on stewardship, my proposal would be to actually make those 5 basically citizen at large positions, because we've run into issues with where we've had designees from different boards on committees where the boards didn't choose to appoint people, which created quorum problems and so forth. And so what my proposal would be is to make the stewardship members 5 individuals at large. And I guess where I'm headed is that I'm working on a proposed charge, and I would plan to circle back with the chairs of stewardship and scholarship to outline the proposal and give them a chance to provide input or whatever, and then deal with this in more detail at our next meeting on the 16th. But it seems to me it's worth specifically updating the charge so there's clarity in terms of what we expect, and then again making it easier to get people appointed to the committees with at-large members, which stewardship, or excuse me, scholarship already has. And the bottom line is this would not change any of the current participants in either of these committees. So those folks, we've already appointed 5 people for each of those committees, so there's no change for those at this point. And if as vacancies occur, there may be changes, but that's down the road somewhere. So anyway, that seems to me to be moving in the right direction, and I'll follow up with folks as appropriate and come back to the topic on the 16th.
Okay, so before we comment, let me just clarify something. I just got a text from Patty Fiore. So she's questioning why we're not discussing reducing the pilot committee from 7 to 5. And that's because that's a bylaw committee, and that's going to be done at the special town meeting, Patty. This is different. These were ad hoc committees appointed by the select board. So we do these differently than we're going to do the pilot committee. So we have not forgotten the pilot committee. It is planned to be reduced from 7 to 5 at special town meeting. Okay, so Sam's outlined a plan for reducing these to 7 to 5, making them just general members, etc., running this by each of the chairs of the committees, getting their buy-in, and coming back to us next Tuesday. Is that sound like a plan to everybody? See, Andrew nodded.
Yes.
Hearing no objections.
Marguerite?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so Sam, you're on.
Okay, thanks. I'll follow up.
All right. Okay, so who do we have? Patty and Jenny in our audience, Vanessa?
Yes.
All right, can you bring them both over?
Yeah.
You can go and bring Dawn over too if you want to. That'll be, well, I gotta be careful though. So there's how many on the committee? 7? So 4?
No, 5. So this is a quorum.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Well, it's a 7-member committee, right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay, so if we bring, why don't we just go ahead and bring Dawn over at the same time?
I did post a meeting just in case more of them came.
Yeah, so you did. So let's bring Dawn and Jenny and Patty over. Andrew's already here, so that's 4 out of 7. So then let Dawn go ahead and call his meeting to order once he's here. Hello, Jenny. There she is.
Mm.
So Jenny, you're muted. You may want to be, but you are, just in case you don't know. And is Patty here?
Yep.
Yep, there she is.
I have a ton of grandkids here. You want me muted?
I wish you could mute them, right?
No, she doesn't.
I don't have that feature on my grandchildren.
Don, can you hear us? We can, I see you, but we don't, well, I see that you're there, but we don't see you.
Yeah, I don't know why my why my face isn't on there, but since we have a quorum, I will declare that the Tricentennial Committee is now in session.
All right, so welcome, Tricentennial Committee. So we're going to start off with a specific topic related to the Tricentennial, then we'll talk, then we'll turn it, there you are, Don. Then we'll turn it over to you, Don, to talk about kind of where you stand, what you want us to know. We will make sure it's clear where we need 2 more members on your committee. While we're doing this, I hope we can recruit somebody from tonight's meeting. Okay, so Patty, do you want to talk or you want Jenny to talk?
I can start it. Jenny can do some input on the fundraising aspect of it. We kind of came up with this idea of creating engraved bricks and hopefully installing them at the Heritage Park Plaza. And it could be a great fundraiser. We were thinking of it for kind of an initial fundraiser with a kickoff, possibly at Heritage Day in the fall. I've reached out to a couple of companies, and can we see this?
Yeah.
So I have an actual sample. I was a little concerned at the beginning about.
Set it up again.
Oh, sure. I was a little concerned in the beginning about the engraving on it. Oh, is it in focus?
Yep,
The
read it.
engraving
Yep,
on
good.
it.
Now it is.
So this particular company does laser engraving, and as it's engraved, it's filled with a product that melts from the laser and turns into glass, so that it's an actual, it's flush on the top. So in other words, if you were walking on it, it's not going to wear away over time. Has a lifetime guarantee. I'm not sure whose life that is, but we can qualify some things. So what I think we're here to ask the select board is, can we do this? Because we recognize that that is kind of ripping up a portion of a newly installed park. Is that going to be a problem with you or with the DPW? I think our concept was that it would be in the middle portion of the plaza up at the top, and potentially include, I think Dawn was talking about maybe a monument or something to recognize the Tricentennial, and maybe that could be a portion of it, or that could be the kind of rose stone in the middle with these bricks around it. And we would sell them for, I mean, my thought was we sell them for $300 a piece, i.e. 300th anniversary. And in response for that, people get the engraved brick for whatever, whatever they want engraved on it and installed in that park. We've also talked about adding this to our sponsors, and maybe Jenny can fill in a little bit more on that, because we can also do logos. So if we have huge sponsors or something that want to come on board for the Tricentennial, we can offer this as part of the sponsorship package, and it's a slightly extra fee to do a logo versus just text or a standard clip art thing, but it might, it could be worthwhile. I just wanted to point out one other thing in the package of information that they sent me. They give you some ideas, because this one that I have is, I just told them we were trying to match a standard brick color, but they've sent me some information. I don't know.
I
That
don't
does
know.
not look in focus to me.
No, it's not focused for. it
Okay.
is sometimes-
How do
now
I
it-
do that?
Okay.
What do I do?
Maybe
Back up a little bit.
Back up?
Yeah.
No.
No, Betty, get you out of the picture and hold the thing up there.
Okay,
It'll
like
focus on
that?
it. Hold it there for a second, see if it focuses. Nope, doesn't do it. Sorry.
Oh. Crikey.
Camera's trying to focus. Your fingers are perfectly in focus, but not the.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. This would be so much more easy if it was in person.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to show that. But they've given some suggestions in how you can use coordinating colors or, different color bricks, maybe our engraved bricks are a different color than the actual red bricks that are in there to make it stand out. You can interject them with other color bricks just to create more visual interest. What questions can I answer?
Patty, who would install these?
Well, I think, Sam, what our intention is that by selling them at $300 a brick, that we are including installation.
So we'd have a contractor, not DPW. I mean, my concern is DPW is down a couple of people now and has a huge backlog of stuff. So I'm not eager to add workload to DPW. So if we can actually
Right.
get a contractor to come in and do this, I think that would make it a lot more.
We also talked about
Okay.
getting it donated as a sponsorship from a local landscaper or mason.
Okay, good. That would be great.
So I
Okay.
think that is part of the package that would be under the auspices of the Tricentennial Committee or fundraising committee to complete the project. And we were kind of thinking it could be really a kickoff fundraiser or something, because I know that there's probably something in the works or a plan for some kind of a dedication for that park. And if we could just drag that out a few more months, it would be great if this could all be part of it.
Mm-hmm. I think the community house bricks were like $100, weren't they, or something like that?
Well, but that was their 100th anniversary, Sam.
Yeah.
We have a 300th anniversary.
When we get to the 1000th anniversary, that's going to be very expensive. So did they actually sell a lot of them at $100 a piece?
Sold out.
How many was sold out, roughly? Because they're not, the whole thing at the community house is not covered with those bricks, I don't think.
No, they
Actually
have it
sold.
on the walkway. I mean, we were thinking, just to throw out a number, we were thinking 100.
Yeah.
We could
that's
sell
$30,000.
100.
That's pretty good. Yep.
100 quantity, yes. And also, this is our way of doing a grassroots campaign, at that level, because we're going to have sponsorships levels starting as high as $100,000, and all the way down to the brick at 300.
Brick is the lowest cost one then.
Brick is the lowest cost.
Right.
Okay. Sounds
Patty,
interesting to me.
engineer. Oh, sorry, Sam. Go ahead.
Just, it sounds good to me.
Are they the same size as the bricks that are in there right now?
Yes. Yeah, it's a standard brick size. And like I said, they probably have a dozen or a dozen and a half different colors. So, we can choose whether it's a mixy matchy thing or it's contrast or
Yeah.
Well,
That's a
there's a
question down the
possibility
road.
that maybe our signature sponsors, our high-level sponsors, get a different color, so they stand out and get placement in a particular area that's more visible.
Gold bricks, as it were.
Yes, there you go.
We should
I
check
don't
with
think they'd give it that
DPW.
much.
We should check with DPW just to be sure that there's not something going on there that we're not aware of and don't run into a problem with them. But
So on this point, when this issue came up a while ago, and I did speak to Bill Cundiff about it, he had one concern that I've now located. I don't think has been completely run to ground. You just mentioned that when the bricks are set, they're usually put a sand material between the bricks to lodge them in, and there's a concern about where you take them out. Will they still be level when you put them back in? And
Well, that would be part of it. Sure.
yeah. So I spoke to it looks like I emailed with Bill about this back in May, and he said he was going to reach out to Greg Russell about this, but I don't know if he heard back. But it's worth following up with Bill just to see. But I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. And masonry contractors do that kind of stuff all the time. I have
Yeah.
a patio with bricks in it, and they've replaced some of them, and they can re-level or whatever in there. And they do put, it's not even sand sometimes, it's some sort of an acrylic material maybe to lock things together there.
So it sounds like everybody is viewing this favorably, if I am reading the room right here. The only thing I caution when I hear about different colors of bricks is to make sure that someone with a good eye, make sure that they look okay. And we don't have something that looks a little weird as far as a bunch of different colors of bricks.
Yeah.
We can
Maybe
build
we
a
should-
yellow brick road here.
Maybe we should reactivate the park committee.
Oh yes, volunteer.
Yes,
Andrew.
please. Yes.
They'll just need to vary like a 2-year long.
Let's not.
I'm not sure Andrew's scars have healed yet for that one.
And
Marguerite was the chair.
Or
so-
there's a little more there.
Marguerite is the most card. So no, let's not do that, Patty. We can get this without the committee.
Right. Fabulous idea, maybe later. With the bricks, who makes the decision about where they go? Is it a band around the middle of it? Will the mason say put it on one end? I mean, I think Kathy has a really good point. You don't want it to look jarring to the eye. Yes.
No, I think that, and what we could certainly do is come back to the select board with a couple of comps of what it would look like. I think it totally depends on how many get sold. So, I mean, if you have 100, you might place them differently than if you had 200. And some of these that I've seen in this brochure that we can't look at, it's not like every brochure, every brick. They're kind of every other brick or something to create a pattern. So there is a lot of different ways to do it. I think that's probably a decision for down the road. And I mean, I could certainly help putting together a comp of what that would look like.
So maybe, Patty, the first step is to go ahead and sell the bricks, right? See how many we sell, just like you said, and then decide, how to lay them out using the advice of someone that does this for a living, getting a Greg Russell-like person, which I'm sure there's plenty of people in town that would come and sit and help us, figure this out. Then come back to us and say, this is how many we sold. This is where, we've talked to someone. This is the best way we think they would look to keep it looking nice and not gaudy. And then we just do a final vote and say, we agree, go for it.
And confirm the plan with Bill Cundiff.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep Bill involved all the way through, for sure.
So, Andrew, are you going to reach back out to Bill Cundiff?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
I will.
Okay, so Andrew's in charge here for coordinating with Bill.
Okay.
It sounds like fun, Patty. It sounds like if it's like in front of the community house, you kind of read them and it's fun.
Yeah.
And you can also create a map of where they are so that, whether you display that there or maybe that's at the townhouse or something. But so that if there is 200 of them, you have a map of where yours is.
Or we have a find your brick party.
Ooh, that's a cool thing.
Good, that's great.
Maybe that's the dedication of it.
Exactly. That would be fun. Everybody who bought one could come and find their brick.
I nominate Marguerite to be the censor for language on the bricks.
Yes. How long a quote can you get on your brick? That's what
Right.
I want to know.
War and Peace, I think.
Yes. How many words?
I think it says Army versus Navy, according to Jim Haggerty.
That's the one he wants to buy. Yeah.
Oh, God. There it is. Well, I think it'd be lovely. Memorial for children, for birthdays, for anniversaries, for businesses.
Yeah, school classes, anything.
yep.
Yeah, you can get actually quite a few characters. And I think the normal is that you can get up to 3 lines. So, yeah.
That's
Unless
a
we're doing
good idea. And
the
300 sounds like a good price. Everyone's okay with that price point?
I was kind of leaving that, I made that suggestion just because it's the 300th anniversary, but I think that's under the auspices of the fundraising committee, which Ginny is handling,
All right.
but I
We
think
feel
it's-
good about the number. We feel really good about it. We think we'll be able to sell a lot. I've already talked to a lot of people who say, oh, count me in, count me in.
All right, sounds good.
So, and
Yeah,
we have an
told me she
amazing,
wanted some.
yes, and we have an amazing group of phenomenal people that have joined the fundraising effort, and I think we're gonna be truly successful. We had a meeting already, and we plan to have another one at the end of July. We're working on our sponsorship package, so we can officially kick off by Heritage Day.
Great.
That's all very positive. That's great. All right, so it sounds like Patty and Jenny, you've got your green light to go forward with the selling the bricks.
Thank you.
If
Thanks.
you're
If I could tune in for a second. This is an excellent first step. It's important, though, that the Tricentennial Committee, which has 5 members, the majority of which, or at least cover it in one of our public meetings, to formally go ahead with this. Now, there's 4 members on here tonight, and there's been no objections, but I would suggest that an agenda item at our July 30th meeting will include a review of this and let the Tricentennial Committee duplicate the actions of the selectmen. There's several steps that have been talked about so far, talking to Bill, getting prices, getting availability, and so on. I just think that it's important that we don't have two members of a 5-member or a 7-member committee press on without the whole committee having formally reviewed it and approved it, and have it be part of our record also. That's my suggestion, and I will recommend that it'll be an agenda item for our July 30th meeting. And also, excellent work. If you can't help, then get out of the way. And with Ginny and Patty, you better get out of the way, because they're really doing an excellent job on this committee.
I agree. I totally
Thank you.
All right, so let's reiterate now for any of the public listening that we need 2 new members to this committee. We've had a couple of resignations for one good reason and one unfortunate reason. So we need 2 new members to step up to get the committee back to its full 7 members. All right, so thank you, ladies. So Don, you're here, you're still on. So why don't you take over now as far as just the overall Tricentennial Committee update?
Yes, thanks, Kathy. Don Morris on the Tricentennial Committee, 300. In accordance with the Select Board Tricentennial Committee charge, dated April 10th, 2023, deliverables section, item 8, the following is an update on the actions of the Tricentennial Committee. The committee's first meeting was on November 2nd, 2023, and has met once each month since, except there were 3 meetings in March, and we have met a total of 10 times. The initial work was to research other towns' recent celebration actions and events. Each member was assigned a few towns to contact. The result guided the committee to efficiently take the recommended early actions for the townwide celebration. I use the word efficiently because if we hadn't done this, we would have been spending a lot of time trying to think up what to do. But when we contacted the other towns, they made it very easy for us to pick and choose what works and what doesn't. We also created a list of over 125 SALPRO organizations to approach for involvement. We submitted a town meeting warrant article to obtain $30,000 for seed money. That was in our charge deliverable item number 2D. And of course, the article passed. We created a town survey for celebration ideas, and that's still a vibrant item. We wrote a Tricentennial announcement letter, developed a Tricentennial webpage, and most recently researched branding efforts from other towns and created a 300th logo and tagline. You there, Vanessa?
Oh,
The committee approved this at our last meeting on June 20th. We set in motion actions required to have a 501(c) account for donations and income from sales and events. We're working to create a fundraising and parade subcommittee. And as you heard a little while ago, fundraising committee is in full swing. And the agenda for our next meeting on July 30th will include a discussion item on 2 additional proposed actions. One would be to set up a program of 1 or 2 people to interview Southborough senior citizens and be able to capture their memories of Southborough from a long time ago. And the second item is reaching out to longtime Southborough residents for old photos, newspaper articles, and similar pieces of history that we can share with the rest of the town. We'd also like, at the end here, we're very grateful to Steve Valentine and John Kendall for their work on this committee. Both gentlemen decided not to be reappointed. We hope they will be able to participate as we get closer to 2027. So we will formalize this report, bring it before the committee on July 20th. The committee can approve it or modify it, and then we will formally submit it to, as required by our charge, to the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board, and have that be a continued item throughout the next couple of years, so that you and the townspeople are aware of our actions and our progress.
excellent report. Anybody have any questions for Don?
Like the logo, it looks very nice.
Yes, it looks great.
Can you put it back up again, Vanessa, if I can impose on everyone?
Hang on.
This was a collaboration on the initial outstanding work that Patty did to help us. Not all of us are that artistic, but I think this really nails it. The colors, the shape, the text. So you'll be seeing this, and hopefully you won't be sick of it by 2027. You'll just want more.
Hey, Don, you
sorry,
should have
Vanessa,
a
that
small picture of each of the committee members in each of the windows in the buildings there. Personalized.
Okay. We can-
Vanessa, I should have sent you a JPEG instead of a PNG. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Ah, there we go. That's it. That's better.
Well, I think it's lovely.
Looks great.
Andrew, any other comments for Don? I know you're on the committee, so you probably knew all this
No,
anyway.
since I'm on the committee, I don't really have any questions because I know exactly what he's talking about. So,
Okay, you're up to date.
and Don also is doing a great job of serving as chair and keeping us organized together with Vanessa.
I'm just trying to keep up with you guys.
It's very nice to have him back for sure. And yes, Ginny and Patty are pistols on this, so they're doing a great job. So Patty, you drew that logo?
Yes. Well, I drew it on the computer.
Yeah, I understand. But still, it's very impressive.
Didn't draw it in a sketch pad. Yeah. I created the logo, yes.
Yeah. So, Marguerite, anything else for the Tricentennial Committee before they adjourn?
No, I think anything we can do to help, let us know, because it looks great so far.
So Don,
Thanks for your support.
Patty already knows this, but Mark and I and Andrew Pfaff, we visited Fiscal today. They've got a new head of school and they've got a new board chair. So we went down to have a nice meeting about several things, and we made sure that we brought up the Tricentennial with them too. And then I connected Patty with them this afternoon. So that should go forward, I hope. And they seem to be pretty excited. They actually gave us, Patty, a book that they put together about the history of Fiscal, which is about 150 years old itself. So we've got that now too, if you want to use that for anything. But it was a very nice meeting. They both seem to like their jobs and be very interested in working with us on the Tricentennial.
I remember in 1966 when they turned 100, and there was, back then the town was really small, so small things appeared to be bigger. There's so few people, and the school had significant imprint in the center of town. And I remember Ed Brooke, the senator, U.S. senator from Massachusetts, was the keynote speaker. It's pretty cool.
Wow. Well, that's impressive too. Okay, so if there's no further comments or questions, Don, if you want to adjourn your committee, then we thank you for coming.
Thank you. I have a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor. Morris, yes.
Martins, yes.
Burns Fury, yes.
Dennington, yes.
Thanks and good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I should have said the following at the start, so I'll say it now. This is a special meeting. This is not our normal 2 times a month meetings. We are doing this because after the end of every fiscal year, certain financial things have to happen very quickly before July 15th. So the meeting really is, the purpose of this is to meet with advisory and to approve certain interdepartmental transfers, and for them, if needed, to approve reserve fund transfers. It's not needed tonight for that, but they would have done that also. So that's why we're doing this. So that's why there's no public comment or some of the usual things. So I just want to make that clear if anybody in the public's wondering why they don't see public comment on here. Our normal meeting is next Tuesday, which will include everything that it normally does. Okay, so the next few items are going to go fast. So we're going to probably get done before 7:30. So we'll take a quick recess until 7:30 if that happens, which I think is going to. Okay, so the next one is, this is perfunctory, but we've now got to vote to assign the MBTA communities warrant article that we expect to have on the fall warrant to the planning board for them to open their public hearing process. So can I have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Marguerite?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Sorry, so 4-0 to approve, handing it back to them.
Can I jump in here for 2 seconds? I went back and looked at the Department of Housing and Community Development original language on several of these definitions, and there are small word differences between what the state is using and what's showing up here. And in a couple of instances, such as the definition of affordable unit, the punctuation that the state has clarifies what goes with what, especially in relation to the word both. And I'm just saying that I would like to sit with somebody on the planning board for 10 minutes and just make sure that language is clarified per the way the state does the definition. There was also another one where dwelling unit, the state called a residential dwelling unit. And there was another one where it was called, right on page 1 of the Article 36, it's called a dwelling, but the state's calling it housing, not dwelling. And I'd like to just sit with planning for just 10 seconds and just sort of say, I'd really like to be sure that the language is totally loophole proof in the way that it's put together. Not to tell them how to do their job, but I just think there's some commas missing.
I
in
think they would
the
be
definition of affordable unit.
be grateful for that. I'm sure they want to get it as perfect as possible. I've got
Yes.
a call tomorrow, Marguerite, with Mimi, so I can
Yep.
let her know that you would like to do that so she can decide who's going to reach out to you.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. I
That's-
just want to make sure that there's no holes in it.
That's
Yeah.
typically the kind of thing that happens during the planning board's hearing process for
Mhm.
this stuff.
Okay.
So ample opportunity to get that on the table, certainly.
Oh, good. Okay. Just saying. All right. Thanks.
All right, so the next one is to approve the timeline for submitting citizens petitions to the, for the warrant for the fall town meeting. So what we've done recently is allowed citizens petitions up to a reasonable time that is needed to actually get the warrant done, which was 30 days. That's what we've done recently. Remember, Jay Talman has told us that citizen petitions can come in anytime, but then you've got to set a practical deadline because you've got to get the warrant done. So we've used 30 days in the recent past. Does anyone want to use the 30 days? Make that clear. Anyone want to use anything other than 30 days?
Yeah, I think we need it, as we talked last time. And a question for Mark is, was 30 days sufficient last time around from a production standpoint? Does that work for us?
Yeah, it's tight, but it works. I think in hindsight, Sam, 30 business days probably would have been better, but we can make it work. That'll be August 31st if you stick with the 30 days.
Can you do 30 business days?
Well, I mean, the bylaw is 30 days.
Okay.
So
Okay,
that's
sorry.
the issue. I mean, but I think that, we have to post it by law by the 16th. Your second meeting in September will be the 17th. So we're going to have to probably have a special meeting just to approve the final warrant. And we're going to look to get final language from all article sponsors no later than September 3rd. And I think that we should be, in pretty good shape getting everything done with the printer and getting everything all set, within that time frame. So yeah, so the 31st, if we do a 30-day, that should work for us.
Mark, has there been any complaint from residents that that's not enough time?
I have not heard that, there was an issue with that. So, and again, a lot of times the citizen petitions will come in. There's nothing that can really be done. They need to be, put into the warrant as submitted. So, really, there's not a lot of changing if, when they come in.
I
Thank you.
agree. You only need 10 signatures for a citizen's petition for a special. So it's not heavy lifting to get those signatures for one thing. And Mark's got to have time to get the warrant to the printer and get it done. And so 30 days makes sense to me.
Kathy, is it 10 for special also, or is it more for special? I thought it was more for special.
I think you need
More
more
for special.
Okay, so it's either 10 or 100.
Yeah, 100, I think.
It's 10 for one of them.
10
So,
for, 10 for annual
10
town
for
meeting,
annual.
sure.
and then
Yeah,
100 for its special.
I think it's 100 for special.
All right, but still, 100 is still not that hard to get. Stands transfer station for a couple hours and you have them. Okay, so everybody okay with making a motion to clearly state that a citizen's petition has to be submitted on or before August 31st, 2024, if it is going to be on the warrant for the special town meeting on September 30th?
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Sam?
Yes?
Marguerite?
Aye.
Andrew?
Yes.
And Cook is aye. So 4-0 to reiterate that citizens petitions have to be submitted no later than August 31st.
So I'll circulate that notice out to all the department heads, boards and committees, and also we'll post something up on the website.
And let Mr. Haggerty know too.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So there's that one. So this one is simply changing a town in this IMA that we've signed a while back from Sterling to, who are we changing it to, Mark?
Shrewsbury?
To Shrewsbury.
Okay, or Douglas to Shrewsbury, maybe? Yes?
Yes.
Spencer, sorry. So I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah, Spencer was the lead community in this stormwater consortium. The memo from Mr. Cundiff is that based on the retirement in Spencer, they're looking to shift the lead community to the town of Shrewsbury. Nothing else changes in this at all.
And Bill has recommended that we do this, so it's good enough for me. Anybody have any problems with
I
approving
just
this?
first have a. This is the first time I don't know what the Central Massachusetts Regional Stormwater.
Neither did I,
Coalition is.
when this came up. And I'm not sure you're going to get an answer on this.
Okay.
Andrew.
Mark, do you know, or Sam?
No, not specifically. I got a general idea, but I don't want to guess.
Yeah, I can't speak to the specifics of it, and I don't believe that. No, Bill is not with us.
So we're not changing the agreement. All we're changing is the lead community. The agreement is signed. We're not signing a new agreement. We're not adding to it. So it's something that's already exists, Andrew, with your.
I know,
I know. But so I can't say any more than Bill says we should do this. Is that good enough for you? Or you want to wait?
I'm fine.
I'm okay with it. Bill says it's okay.
Bill says it's okay. It's okay. Sam, you want to make a motion?
I move that we accept the change in the stormwater agreement as proposed.
Second.
Any further discussion? Since we know nothing to discuss about this. Okay, roll call vote. Sam?
Yes.
Marguerite?
Aye.
Andrew?
Yes.
Look is aye, 4-0. So we approve changing from Spencer to Shrewsbury. All right. So Mark reminded me that when we set the calendar for the rest of the select board meetings for the year, for October, we picked the 1st and the 15th, which is the first and third Tuesdays. But the night before is the special town meeting, and it might carry over to the 1st. So we, for 2 reasons, probably should change the first meeting and go maybe 2nd and 4th for October, if that works. Does not conflict with either of the Jewish holidays in October. I've triple checked that. So I can't think of any reason not to go to the 8th and the 22nd.
That works for me.
Works for
Yep.
your calendar.
Works for me.
Marguerite?
Yep, that's fine. Thank you for catching that.
Sam?
That's fine.
Okay. All right. So that's official that we're going to go the 8th and the 22nd for October, so we don't conflict with special town meeting. Even if it goes one night, you're probably not going to want to come back again second night, right? Okay. So that's all we need to do before we start the joint meeting with advisory. So Vanessa, let's just, what time is it? 7:13. So we got 17 minutes. So why don't we just have a brief pause and then we'll come back at 7:30. Is that okay with everybody?
That's for 15 minutes.
Yeah. So I'll see you in 15 minutes.
Yep.
Kathy,
Yes.
probably want to mute.
Well, this one, I just sat back down. I will mute. I've got a new computer, so
I can mute you from here if you want. There you go.
Hey, Andrew, where's the usual barn background?
The AC in the barn is temporarily removed right now, so it's about 90 degrees in there. So
Wait a
other than
minute.
that, gonna be.
I thought you thrived on suffering. Wait a minute.
I didn't feel like joining the call in my bathing suit.
Please. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Andrew, I was driving around earlier today, and I was on Oak Hill Road at around like 9 o'clock, 8:45. I was stunned by how much traffic backed up from Oak Hill Road.
Yeah.
It went all the way to your house. that
This
every day?
morning, the traffic was way past my house. It took me 10 minutes to get to the end of my street.
Is that normal? Every day?
It's been getting bad lately, yeah.
Wow.
What we need is a green arrow, left
Yeah,
arrow.
somebody suggested that 10 seconds or so for the left turns there protected.
Yeah. Yeah, the problem is you have to wait for everybody to come straight across.
Yep. MassDOT could do that, I bet. We
Yeah,
gotta
even
ask.
if you just did it during, certain hours of the morning.
Rush hour time, yeah.
Oh, definitely, because there a lot of people take that left turn.
Sure.
Although, do we want to make it easier for them?
Might discourage it, huh?
Depends how much traffic you want in front of your house, I guess.
Right.
Seek alternate routes.
That's right. No left turn at intersection.
All right, it is.
Marcy's on the other side, and Larry just texted me on how to join. So I think he.
Marcy.
Oh, here's Larry. Hang on.
One, two, three.
There's Claire.
There's your will.
There's Marcy. Okay, so we're already called to order, Andrew. So I'm
Yep.
going to say that we are back in session. Select Board's back in session at 7:30, and turn it over to you.
Why don't we restart the recording?
All right, so let me say that again. Select Board is back in session at 7:30 p.m.
And I called the advisory committee meeting to order at 7:30 p.m.
Tim is over there too now. So welcome, advisory. It's always nice to see you guys. So just
See you
to tee
too.
this up as far as what we're doing first, and this is an annual process. So at the end of the year, Brian and Carla take a look at all the budgets to see if any have overdrawn their budget for the year. And if they are, they look at places that have money left in them, and we do INTER, I-N-T-E-R, departmental transfers that have to be approved by both select board and advisory. Any reserve fund transfers, as everyone knows, are solely under the bailiwick of advisory, but there are none tonight. So all we're going to do tonight is interdepartmental transfers. Marcy, you're on the screen, and I don't know what everybody else sees, but it's very strange looking. Anyway, so does Marcy look normal to everybody?
She has a blurred
Yeah.
background, which is an option, but she looks fine.
Yeah.
Looks fine
here.
on my end.
And
Yeah.
she has white hair on my end. So Marcy, I know what you look like as a blonde. Okay, so that's what we're doing. Andrew, I'll let you say your 2 cents, and Brian's going to explain this to us. But everything that's being proposed to come out tonight is coming out of the health insurance benefits budget, which usually has a little money left over at the end of the year, because it's he puts a little extra in there because he doesn't know what's going to happen during the year. So he's taking it all out of that. And this is truly impressive for those that are really focused on how much we're moving. So if you set aside the $14,000 for the fire department match for the grant they got, this is only $10,000. in a budget of, almost $60 million. So this is pretty impressive. That's all we have to do to get rid of the few overdrafts. And if you look at the ones we're doing, forget the tax title, that's nothing, that's $58. We know why we did 2 of those. We intentionally paid Larry Davis more money because all the work she was doing with the 40B, so we knew that was going to happen. And the assistant treasurer, we understood what that happened. That was a retroactive increase that had to happen. So the only one, what?
Brian or Kathy or somebody, could you put up the spreadsheet just on screen for everybody to see? Whoever has it.
So I'm looking at, this is a spreadsheet that was in everybody's packet.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one pager.
The legal, there was a matter that we had to engage outside legal counsel, not our normal town council. That's a fixed fee for a matter that had to be dealt with. So this is, I think, Brian, and I know Carla's not here, but I hope she listens to this. This is pretty impressive again. So Andrew, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, and I think that as advisory knows, the firefighter match, Chief Achilles had given us the heads up at the beginning of the year. We had earmarked, I think, $25,000 for that. We didn't officially approve a reserve fund transfer. We kind of set that aside, but it's only $14,000 at the end of the day, which was why we set it aside, because we thought he could absorb some of his budget. But yeah, so I think it was another pretty good year for, besides the school large reserve fund transfer for the mold remediation, we did pretty good on surprise items, handling them.
Were there any reserve fund transfers other than for the school mold remediation?
That, I believe, is the only one we approved. Brian, keep me honest on that. And we put in our advisory letter to town meeting the one with Laura Davis. That was kind of a heads up that we got. And a couple other ones that were able to be absorbed into the budget. So nothing was too much of a surprise.
Brian, anything you want to say to?
I'll just say it was a very good year. This is de minimis money compared to the budget, and thank you for the department heads that worked with to minimize these necessary transfers at the end of the year. Very good year, and we're going to have a pretty good return on unused money in the budgets for what we call the turnbacks for 6/30/24. So that's not for tonight, but just a heads up. It's going to be a substantial amount of money. So good job.
Yeah. This is the classic, no news is good news.
So that means, guys, hopefully we'll have a decent free cash number to start next year. And who knows what we'll use it for, but it's always good to have it.
We know we'll use it.
All right.
So anybody else from select board, any questions on what we're about to vote on? The debt stuff, he's just moving around from one account to another, long-term to short-term, et cetera. So there's no meaning in that piece of it. Andrew, you want to see?
If any advisory has any questions, I just want to, do you have Vanessa, do you have it from the packet you could put on the screen? Just the approval document one?
Was that in the select board packet? I don't have any of the advisory documents.
It was sent in Brian sent in an email.
Let me see if I can find it.
Brian, I made you a co-host in case you could share it.
I have it as well if we need it. So
you got it ready to pop up, Howard?
yeah, it's on my other screen.
All right, I got it here too.
There it is.
Yep.
There we go. Yeah. So Brian, just the interest part, I kind of understand it, but why don't you just explain it real quick? Just. You might be on mute.
There you go. Had to find it. Yeah, so basically this is kind of a wonky thing, but we pay certain things. We had amount of money in short-term debt, and we paid really long-term interest on that for these new projects. So the DOR makes us at the end of the year just make it right to categorize these things correctly. So that's all it is. It's not money overspent. It's not like the 24,000. It's just literally moving them into the right accounts. That's it.
Okay.
All right, so it doesn't sound like there's any further questions. So I'll make the motion to approve 146,000. So I'll do select board first, Andrew, okay?
Yep.
So I'll make a motion for the select board to approve 146,162.21 of transfers as shown on the spreadsheet, which will be attached to our minutes, to the accounts that are listed on the spreadsheet.
Second.
Roll call vote. Marguerite,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Cook is aye. So 4-0 for select board. Andrew?
And I make the motion that advisory approves the interdepartmental transfers of $146,162.21 as shown in the year-end transfers document as part of our minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Marcy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Howard?
Aye.
And Andrew is aye.
Okay, so thank everybody.
Thank you very much.
So since we were all together, Andrew and I thought we would take advantage of being together to talk about a couple more substantive things that you guys, advisory has talked about, select board a little bit, but not as much, which are potentially doing, or at least recommending, trying to get interest in increasing the CPA surtax that we have today from 1% to 3%. And then second, talking about possibly creating a separate stormwater enterprise fund, like the water fund. So a whole separate entity has its own P&L, et cetera. So I know advisory has discussed both of these. So Andrew, you want to take the lead on the CPA surtax?
Yeah, so advisory had looked at it, I think it was last year or the year before, just as one of our summer projects to kind of understand it. And you know, the match was a little bit better back then. I think we were in the high 30s or 40s. The thought process was at the time that we're currently at 1%, moving to 3%. Not only do you have, go from 1 to 3, so you triple your amount of money. There's a second and third round of matching from the state that kicks in when you're at 3% and only at 3%, which is roughly another 10% or so of match. We're pretty low on it's called the deciles, which is the different levels get more match. We're a little low because of our net worth of the average taxpayer. But that being said, it's still a match of money from the state. The thought process is if there is significant amounts of capital projects or projects that would have been funded most likely by the general fund or debt service that would hit the town budget, and we could move those eligible projects into being funded by CPA dollars, we would get more bang for our buck with the match, right? But I think that's the most important caveat, that personally, I don't want to increase taxes unless there's an offset, right? So unless that, we can kind of agree on the strategy with capital and with select board and with CPC that the strategy, should be for this 2% to find items that, most likely, are able to be approved in terms of, being CPA eligible, and that would have, then be funded by the general fund, town projects, et cetera, to kind of ease some of the burden and add a little bang for the buck. But that's, I think that's the work that needs to be done if we want to move forward.
So I would add to that, the process to doing this is you can do it one of two ways. It has to end up being voted on by the town at a town election. It could be November, doesn't have to be May. So you could do it this November. To get it there, you do it one of two ways. You either collect 5% of voter signatures, or you go to town meeting and get town meeting to vote positively to put this on the ballot. And then when you get to the ballot, you have to have a positive vote there too. So you'd have to have two processes to get it there. A couple years ago, Andrew and I, when I was on advisory with Andrew, we went to CPC when Andrew Mills was the chair, and we never talked to Andrew about it, and he was very excited that advisory was even entertaining this. I mean, he was really excited. He really was surprised that we would even look at it. So we went, they took a straw vote that night, and it was a unanimous vote to support it. The only issue they had is how to get it on the ballot. I think, if I recall, Andrew, they preferred to go through town meeting to get there versus going to, getting 5% of signatures and getting there. So I believe that they preferred, they thought town meeting was the better route to getting on the ballot, but they were all for it. The CPC today is not of the same mind, at least so far. And I'm not sure why. So they need to support this. You wouldn't want to go to town meeting without them supporting it. This is not a select board or advisory thing. Somebody else has got to lead this charge to decide to want to do this. I guess select board could put the warrant article on the warrant, but if we do the signature vote, somebody's got to take charge of that. So I'm not sure who that would be. Not sure it's a time to do it. We've got the big school project coming up, and plus trying to explain this to, a citizen that's not necessarily real in tune with what's going on with taxes and just wants to keep their tax bill down. It's hard to explain that we're trying to actually reduce your taxes. We're trying to get more state money in to help us pay for these things. And we're trying to use the CPA money to pay for things we're going to have to pay for one way or the other. If we had a bigger match before the Algonquin athletic complex was approved, we could have used a lot of CPA money to pay for that, but we didn't. As you know, you guys didn't support that because of that reason. You wanted to wait a year till we could try to get the CPA surtax increase and use some of this money. The last time Andrew and I looked at the numbers as far as what we thought we generate, we go from about $500,000 of CPA money a year between the local collection and the state collection to about $1,650,000 or $1,700,000 of collections between the two. And again, the emphasis is if you go to 3%, you get this bonus that you don't get if you just do the 1%. So it's not 3 times the state money, it's 3 times plus. So every little bit counts. The match will all depend on, the funds that came in that year from the various deeds that got recorded. That's where this CPA money comes from. So you never know. It does bounce up and down. More towns get in it, then that dilutes the pool too. But there's, as far as I know, there's still going to be a CPA period. So there's always going to be some state money coming in regardless. So we just thought we'd throw it out there tonight to see if there seems to be an appetite to at least sit down with CPC again, try to go through this, and show a spreadsheet, show projects that we think would qualify that we know we're going to have to do one way or the other, and to see what they think. But it would be helpful to understand, what this group thinks first before we go to that step.
Yeah, and I think my calculation, I pulled it up that I did it originally. Had we done 3%. Originally, when we voted this, which I think lost by a handful of votes, I think it was pretty close, like 51-49 the first time around. We would have had another $5.2 million just in match from the state. So I think we left a lot of match money on the table. Again, we wanted to make sure also would lower our taxes on the other side, but so I think they're less enough, but I'll pause there. Why don't we start with advisory if anybody has any comments?
Only comment I have is I think an organized discussion with CPC would be worthwhile to understand the best path to move forward. I do think there's a lot of money left on the table, and we've talked about it at advisory, and Andrew's great at explaining it. So,
yeah, and I think Kathy and I are just trying to right now say, does advisory and select board think this is a good idea to move forward, and then we can start the conversation with CPC and starting, the other stakeholders, whether it's affordable housing trust, CHOPSI, open space, I'll go down the list, recreation on supporting it as well, but figured it should start here. But Larry, I think you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, I'm just sort of curious, being the sort of the new guy in terms of understanding how the revenue and expenses work. How, I don't want to put you on the spot for a number, but how likely is it that this would end up being at least revenue neutral from a real estate tax point of view? In other words, are there the expenses that we're projecting right now and that we can see going forward that could use the CPC money, because I know that there are restrictions on how that money is used, that would make up for the 2% increase. Well, the 300% increase actually in the amount that's being.
Yeah, I think there was some. I had put together a preliminary list of a bunch that I thought could be eligible, and Ben saw. There's some on there that may only portions or may not be, but like I looked at the capital plan, I looked at the master plan, I looked at the recreation plan and the school's capital plan. And there's the cleanup of Breakneck Hill could have been eligible. That was about $2.5 million. South Union School needs about $300,000 or $400,000 of renovations. Obviously affordable housing. There's a bunch of things we've looked at doing there, but that could also be there. Lundblad Field, the dog park, the school Neary field rebuilds as part of, and the playground build as part of the school project. MSBA does not reimburse for fields, so you could use CPA for that. The recreation plan, a lot of it is recreation, but I think Sam had Route 9 pedestrian bridges, which have been kind of done with CPA funding as long as it's dedicated to pedestrian. It's not technically a sidewalk. There's turf, Neary Field turf. While you can't buy the turf, you can use CPA funds to do some of the supporting stuff and the underlayment under the gravel, etc. Part of the recreation plan is, the South Union playground replacement. That's $300,000. Community center as well is there. Some of that's probably eligible. It's certainly, I estimated that there would be enough to use up that extra 2% for the foreseeable future. But again, that's just at a high level.
I'm sorry. How much does the 1% represent in dollars right now?
Well, it's about $100 per house.
Yeah. So if we went right now, the average single family house, 901,000, the first $100,000 exempt. So everybody pays about $111. So you go from $111 for a single family average to $334. So it'd be $200 increase.
And
it's certainly not as big as our usual tax increase. But
much is
it's
that
not insignificant.
How much is that in terms of total dollars to the town? 1%.
So
500.
If we
get right now in total, it'd go to about $1.6 million, $1.7 million, based on
so
I think the reimbursement rate is.
Okay.
Yeah, so based upon the FY23 number, which the reimbursement rate was better back then. That's the calculation I did. I think it was we were about 39%. So our surcharge was 391,000. The match was 150,000 to a total of 540. If we went to 3%, that 390 would go to 1.1, and the match would be around 600,000. We go from a 39% to a 48% match for a total like 1.7 million. So roughly a $1.2 million a year increase in the funds available.
And I think the match is great. It's the adding that 2% to whatever additional increases happen in a year. That's the hard thing to swallow down for residents.
Well, the hardest part is not using that 2% on things that would lower your other side.
Right. And respectfully, the match keeps going down. So at
Yeah.
one point, if it keeps going down and the match becomes zero, we just raised everyone's, taxes by X, and we're not getting the match anymore, and the funds are still there and used, they're not lost, but the match is the real enticing thing
Yeah.
here. But there's no guarantee on that match.
It is
Yeah.
indeed. Yes, the amount's not guaranteed, Howard, but the source of the funding for the match is real estate transactions, deeds. So there's a $50 fee on a deed that gets registered or recorded that goes into this fund. So unless those transactions literally stop completely, there's going to be money going into the pot. It just that pot can shrink, it can get bigger. It depends on the economy.
Mm-hmm. So, and the housing market, as far as units on the market to sell, has been shrinking. So,
Yeah.
and don't
in
get me
the
wrong, I'm
past,
still for this. I'm just putting out the
Yeah.
other side of it. What we have to,
Yeah.
what the conversation will be from the other side. So,
Yeah, and in the past they've added money on top of the surcharge funds that they get for the tax transfers, but
right.
Again, that's not guaranteed. Who knows? I mean, I think the lowest I think we've ever gotten was 17 or 18%. And the highest, of course, when we started was 100%, right? That was great. But so it's I think it's more of is it worth having the conversation now, keeping it on a fall town meeting, or trying to collect signatures for a fall or next spring ballot? Or with everything else we have going on, might this be something we slow play, start the conversations, check with CPC, or just kind of, stop it altogether?
I think, as Marcy says, I think the next step is that conversation with CPC, and we can support this, but this is really their cause to champion.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, it would be rather, you could do it, I guess, but I don't think you'd want to do it. I don't think you'd want to be at town meeting if you're going the town meeting route, right? It's one thing if you're going to collect the signatures outside town meeting and then just do a vote on the ballot. But I just don't know. I don't think you would want to go forward without the full support of CPC.
I agree.
Agreed. Yeah. So do we want to take a vote or a straw poll from advisory and select board and whether or not we support continuing the conversation with CPC to see if they would support and what they would recommend for next steps? Does anybody disagree with that idea?
Sure.
Okay.
Makes sense. Hey, Andrew, I've listened to some of the CPC conversations, and I'm not sure that what I heard was opposition to the concept of doing it, but simply how it needs to be done to avoid getting defeated at a town meeting vote. People were very concerned the fact that if it loses at town meeting, then it gets increasingly more difficult to get it passed at a subsequent town. I guess I personally don't necessarily believe that, but that was a pretty strong comment that came out of the CPC conversation. So I think we need to understand that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that stems from getting everybody in line and having everybody marching to the same beat and saying that, we're going to be organized between advisory, select board, capital, and, rec, schools, on making sure that we're doing a good job of our capital forecasting and that we're identifying early projects that might be CPA eligible, maybe even coming years ahead of time to CPC to discuss them, working with the coalition, that kind of thing to kind of put that process in place. Because in the past, they've come and said, hey, does anybody have any projects? And then there's, nothing. And then something comes out at the last minute or whatever. But I think, proving that we have a firm policy process and that we can follow to make sure we actually put forth things that would offset the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And Kathy, is there any portion of the contemplated Neary building project that could be CPA eligible? Because I think that could be one of the most tangible selling points of why you'd want to do it this fall.
That's a timely question, Andrew. The Neary Building Committee met on Monday. Andrew Pfaff and I are on that committee. And for the first time, it looks like we're heading toward possibly locating a new school on the same, almost on the same footprint as the current school. That is tearing down the current building and putting the new school there, whether it's a 2 grade or 4 grade, which means the fields that are currently next to Neary, which we had the 2 town meetings on, would still be left intact. Now, at the meeting, I know, I don't remember anything being wrong with those fields. You know, they worked fine for our meetings, but Jason Malinowski said that those fields need work. So that would be one section, playground, whatever. So there is aspects of that committee or that project that would qualify as CPA projects.
Yeah, and Andrew, we kind of asked the consultants to kind of come up with a list of things that may be, you know, the playground at the school, you know, kind of like some of the alternative funding sourced things, you know, like the auditorium that we're talking about for Neary, you know, maybe a town use thing because it's not reimbursed by MSBA. Maybe it's a separate, you know, kind of a standalone thing. But so kind of trying to piecemeal them together to see what the funding sources could be for parts of that project.
Is it true that MSBA does not reimburse for playing fields?
Correct.
They reimburse for site costs, Sam. They don't get specific. Say they give us, it used to be 8%. It looks like it's 10% now, but the projected site cost currently with the budget we have are already over 10%. So there doesn't look like there's going to be any money left from that reimbursable bucket to use to upgrade the fields.
So that's a good.
They would.
With
I was gonna say, Sam, they don't let you use it for like lighting or stands, or it would just be like actual field, you know, grading.
But to Andrew's point, that could be a real selling piece to push for this.
Sure. So if the groups tonight decide to take the next step, which is to sit down with CPC and really go through this, have a good, honest, coherent discussion, then it sounds to me, I think we've got to do is talk about the plan or talk about the process, but also then talk about the mechanism to get it to the ballot. Sam, you implied that we're going through town meeting. You don't have to go through town meeting. You can get signatures. So that would have to be discussed too as part of it too.
About 350 signatures, which is easy.
Yep.
Right.
But you'd have to have somebody lead that charge to get those signatures.
Right.
So unless anybody objects, my recommendation for next step is, Kathy, why don't you and I try to meet with CPC again or meet with Ben and try to have the conversation of that advisory and select board, at least like to restart that conversation, especially in light of the Neary project and other projects, to see what their thoughts are and whether or not it makes sense.
Does anyone have any issue with that plan?
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay. So I don't think we've got to vote on saying, yes, go to the next step, go sit down with CPC, then come back to us.
Yeah, I think we got our marching orders.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments on the potential to increase the CPA surtax? All right, so the next item that we want to talk about, since we're again both together and take advantage of this, is starting the discussion on potentially creating a new stormwater enterprise fund. Andrew Pfaff has done a whole lot of, he's done a lot of reading and calculations of this. So I'm going to turn this one over to Andrew to explain what this would entail and why we'd want to do it.
Yeah, so I mean, there's kind of two pieces to it. Originally, when I looked at this, it was the town of Westford, and there's a lot of good documents, and I can send some stuff around, but they did a good presentation at town meeting. Creating a stormwater enterprise fund isn't really the goal. The goal is how do you create it and fund it, right? And so you could fund it via regular taxes. You could do taxes and fees. You could do an investment fund, which would charge basically a percentage. My suggestion, and what some other communities are starting to do, Westboro just did it, is charge a stormwater usage fee. And why that is important is it basically ties your stormwater cost to the amount of impervious surface your property has. So if you have open space, you don't pay any bill for that. And basically, what you would probably do is include it in the water bill or the tax bill, would include your stormwater usage bill, basically. And so other towns, they basically calculate it based upon your percentage of total stormwater usage. The good part about this is it goes to any property in town, so commercial, residential, and nonprofit. It would be assessed a fee, just like if the nonprofits used water. So the benefit is it's still the same cost. It doesn't save the town any money, but it shifts, by my calculation, roughly about 30% of the burden from residential to commercial and nonprofit and industrial. And I think, as we talked with Bill Cundiff and on some of the culvert work that he is looking to do, and some of the aging infrastructure in town, we also have a new MS4 state stormwater permit that has some pretty sizable goals in it that we're supposed to meet over the next few years. That it looks like there's going to be some costs associated with stormwater, and historically we've just included them in our projects, right? When we do a road project, there's drainage or whatever, and we just include it in there. It basically would be like we have the water enterprise fund, and a portion of a truck goes to water and a portion goes to DPW. There'd be another bucket for stormwater, and we could assess, break up the cost that way. And then the costs get assessed by your total impervious surface of the total. But I think for me, it's what we don't have yet is from both Bill and Melissa Danza, conservation, in terms of what stormwater costs we're forecasting out in terms of a capital. I think when I was looking at Westford's, their total stormwater valuation was like about $150 million for their whole infrastructure, right? So, it's a significant portion of the town's infrastructure. I don't know what Southborough's would be, but that's kind of what we would want to have prior to going to town meeting or anywhere to talk about it. But it basically isolates it, spreads the cost from the residential to the other classes.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, excuse me, does that include the building footprint or just the pavement?
It includes any impervious surface. So it would be the pavement, the building footprint, pathways, swimming pools, any of that kind of information. And we actually did a survey. If people remember, we had a MVP grant, mass vulnerability grant a couple of years ago, where the town was actually surveyed for impervious surface. So we have the data on every property and how much impervious surface each one has. So it's pretty easy to calculate. The largest being the book depository, and some of the other commercial properties. The office buildings are the largest, obviously, impervious surfaces.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, I'm part of a couple of regional groups, and I've heard folks in Westboro and Wellesley talk about it. Wellesley just instituted it. They're pretty excited about it. So there's maybe a good case study as well to see how they've done it. So it seems to be pretty popular these days, and many people are looking.
And it seems to be that it actually is driving, some thoughts about, trying to, how do we have pervious asphalt, or do gravel driveways versus asphalt or concrete. So it kind of gets people thinking when they're doing things that, hey, maybe there's another way to do it, because I'm now getting this fee that would save me money. I mean, not a lot of money. The fees usually aren't huge, but the real question is the amount of money that we could put into this enterprise fund that's already part of our budget and it's being spent anyway, and it's part of every project we do with the DPW, et cetera, large enough to warrant the overhead from Brian's team, et cetera, to do the billing and send out the bills and follow-ups and et cetera. I think is the only real outstanding part for me, is that part.
So how do we pay for them now? If we don't have this fund, it's just, we're not normal citizens.
It's either It's either a capital item or it's part of the regular operation budgets.
So it's-
DPW budget absorbs most of it. We also believe that there is going to be a significant increase in these costs because of the culvert issues that Bill Cundiff has identified. If anybody bounces over the one on Willow Road every morning, I'm on the way up to Newland Trigger Center like I do. That one is complicated. He thinks that is multi-million-dollar to fix. He's in the process of getting the engineering done on that one. So these costs could be larger than they have been, given what he's telling us. We don't know. So the amount of money that a resident would save will depend on what the total costs are, and we don't know what they are right now. So the goal tonight is just again to see if there is a strong appetite from these two groups to take it a step further and really start rolling up our sleeves and seeing what might be saved by the average house if we were to do this. Real estate tax wise.
And I think the other part that, oh, go ahead, Aaron.
I said that's the part we need to be crystal clear on, because right now we don't, that charge is hidden somewhere else in the budget. Right? No one sees that. You're taking something that's already part of the overall taxes that people are already complaining are too high. You're pulling it out and giving them their own, a separate charge. So it looks like even though it's saving them money, perhaps it's cost, it's showing up as something they didn't see before, and they see it as an extra charge, and that may not go over well. So.
Yeah, it's like CPA and CPC. It's only valid if there's an offset. Marcy, go ahead.
More than an equal offset too. So, again, we're hoping that some of the real estate tax burden gets shifted to the commercial and not-for-profit valuation.
I had one question, Andrew. I don't know if the other towns have already identified this. If there's a point-in-time assessment of impervious surface that we already have, what's the interval for reassessment, and who would do that? Would that be contracted out then, or would that require more employees later down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I've seen, and obviously we would have to develop our own processes, you can basically do an abatement. Most of the towns have either one or a couple of tranches for residential. So they'll say, okay, all residential, your bill is, as long as you have impervious surface, your bill is $60 a year or whatever it would be, right? It's relatively low. Or, they have two different levels, residential 1, residential 2, and they kind of group people together, which kind of takes away the noise of like, oh, I made my deck smaller, or I did this, and therefore, I come out and remeasure that. I think they have, some of them have an abatement process, especially on the commercial side, because that calculation for impervious surface is done, in the planning board process or in the ZBA process, in your permitting process. That's a calculation you need to do for your stormwater already. So that's known. So if it's a new property, basically you'd use that. And then we could do another, they basically use a plane to do the, and they use a plane to do the, aerials, and then they can use the aerials. They use a software to basically calculate the impervious. And Melissa did a pretty good presentation on it about 1.5 years ago to show what the data looked like and what we can discern from it. So it's pretty cool. But we could update that, every 5 years or so, just to do it. But my thought process was, once we have the data, any new commercial properties or large ones that want to fight the actual bill that they get, you just have to show the calculations. And then any new properties we could just add to the database based upon their permits.
Can I just jump in here for 2 seconds? I'm reading tonight in Bloomberg that 25% of the office buildings which are now unoccupied, the debt on them is coming like totally due shortly. And I'm thinking of Route 9. It's almost all the impervious surface there is empty office buildings. What is this town going to look like in 5 years as far as that's concerned? I mean, I think stormwater, I think this is a great idea because we have 1 million culverts that are going to fall apart. But I'm also thinking that all along Route 9 is going to get way different in 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's a push to take commercial real estate and office buildings, converting them to housing, et cetera, but that wouldn't lower necessarily your total impervious surface. It's just changing the use type.
Do you think that's what's, I mean, this is like off topic, but do you think that's what's going to happen along Route 9?
Too hard to tell.
Where's your ruby in your forehead, Andrew, on this one? What do you think? I mean, look at
If
it.
I had that crystal ball, I'd be in a different business.
Okay, all right, I'll be quiet now, but I'm just saying, I think this is a good idea, but I think the town's going to morph along 9 a lot.
Yeah. And Larry?
Yeah, I was wondering if we were to do something like this, whether it would make sense to consider basically a deductible amount, say, I don't pick a number, 500 square feet, 1,000 square feet, which would have a number of effects, I think. The first is it would actually help drive more of the cost towards the commercial space. Number one. Number two is it probably make it more acceptable to residents. And number three is it might actually substantially reduce the number of residents that actually have to get billed for it, which might take the load, some of the load off of actually billing. You know, if 25% of the residences fall below the deductible amount, then you don't have to bill those people at all. So it could have a number of desirable effects if something like that made sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly worth looking at. Kind of like the first $100,000 of the CPA is exempt.
Yeah, something like
kind
that.
of the same
You
idea.
know, pick a reasonable number. You know, average driveway is 20 feet by 12, so there's 250 feet. Plus a house is another 1,000 feet, so maybe 1,000 square feet is a reasonable deductible or something like that.
Larry, I mean, one thing where I see could be a model for this is like how water rates are set, where on an annual basis, the select board has, we usually take 2 meetings to do it, to determine the water rates for the upcoming fiscal year. And there's actually a consultant that, I mean, there's an element of, it's an enterprise fund, so you need to project out what capital expenses are coming up, etc. But there, they can come up with all sorts of different permutations of numbers that strike the appropriate balance between putting too much of the burden on just an ordinary residential user, and then not kind of over penalizing, shifting the balance to commercial, but not overly so. There's a lot of ways you could do this.
I agree with you, Andrew, that, or AD, that we need to do this carefully and cautiously, look at what other towns have done. They've done this first, get their war stories. I don't know what the other select board members want to do, but I'd like to see this at least go to the next step. And is this something, Andrew, that advisory could take on and do the research and come back to select board at some point? And there may not be enough time to get this, we've got a placeholder on the warrant for the fall, just in case, but we don't have to rush this. So maybe.
Yeah, I think the question is whether or not it's similar to CPA surcharge, in which, maybe this is sponsored by Concom or, Public Works Planning Board, or whatever the new Public Works Advisory Committee, if that ever gets created. They would sponsor it, kind of a thing, and we would more do the research. But I think in terms of, I've certainly done enough research and could work with Bill and Brian and Carla to understand if we can isolate some of the costs, come up with some kind of a forecast and run some of the numbers to see if it would make sense or not.
And Andrew, maybe do some permutations using some of the suggestions that Larry just made, as far as having, so much exempt. Maybe even what I think Andrew was headed toward, a tiered structure, the bigger the impervious, the higher you go. Select board could certainly sponsor the articles. I'm not worried about that, but we just need to have a lot more information to understand whether this is really worth pursuing.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, our previous town planner, Vera Coleus, did a study with consultants in 2008 on this. Have you seen that?
No.
I'll send you a copy of it. It's interesting. But again, they were looking at it then, and for whatever reason, didn't go very far, but maybe some useful context.
Sounds good. So I think, does anybody object with me kind of starting to collect some more data to see if we can get a substantial enough of a pool of funds that it's worth at least pursuing, and then starting conversations up with Conservation Commission or whoever else that would be a stakeholder, but start doing the analysis and the data gathering.
That sounds good.
It's good.
Support.
Andrew, would part of that be like for an ordinary just road project where part of the okay? And you
Yeah,
just have to
so right now when we do
guess.
a road project, like a portion would be the water enterprise fund, a portion would be, again, stormwater now, and then a portion would be like the highway. So when you remember when we see the DPW budget, there's like 6, 7 cemetery, highway, water, there's all the different buckets. So there would be another one for stormwater.
To calculate the amount of stormwater money we're spending right now for the road, in terms of determining what percentage of the road project goes to stormwater versus, it's really just kind of an educated guess, right?
It's probably detailed enough in the bid documents, right? That you can see how many culverts were being added, how many storm drains, how much excavation was needing to be done for those lines versus, say, a water line. All that kind of stuff is part of usually the. I mean, I know one of the reasons why I brought this up too is there's a concern right now that the majority or a significant portion of the homes were built in the early 90s in Southborough. We had the big population boom in the early 90s. And most of the drainage was done with corrugated metal drain pipes, which have about an average life of 30 years. So a lot of those right now are failing. They've rusted through and are going to need to be replaced. Bill was able to get a grant for a camera to inspect a lot of those, but my concern and feeling is that he's going to find a lot of issues when he starts inspecting a lot of our culverts and a lot of our drain lines, which then means that as we replace, the roads are going to have an issue. So the idea is to, as part of the beta work on all the road conditions, to understand all the drainage underneath, what the conditions are, so you can kind of do combo of road with stormwater at the same time and kill two birds with one stone.
Okay.
We've done a lot of paving over the years over bad stormwater that we didn't really know was an issue.
Which Bill has pointed out to us that he agrees with that statement and would like to not do that going forward. Okay, so it sounds like we've got general agreement to basically task advisory with rolling up their sleeves and coming forth with some more data to see whether this is worth pursuing. Okay. All right, so the last item, I just wanted advisory to know what is at least tentatively planned for the warrant on September 30th. So the special town meeting September 30th. Carry forward night would be October 1st, starts at 7 o'clock, goes to 11 o'clock for both nights if we need them. Centerpiece is going to be the MBTA article to add the districts to comply with MBTA Act. We also believe at this point that there will be an article that deals with the regionalization of the emergency dispatch operation at this point. So those are kind of the two substantive stuff, but Mark is going to go ahead and read to you what we've at least listed. So we're on the same page as far as what we believe is going to be on there.
Sure. So the select board had talked about potential articles. Again, as Kathy said, the MBTA communities is going to be the centerpiece. We did engage in a public safety staffing study. So any things that come out of that study, the board may look at implementing, in terms of any positions that are recommended. Again, the feedback for Regional Emergency Communication Center proposal, funding for the Atwood site cleanup. The board had taken a look at doing some some housing on that former Atwood site, and we found there's some contamination, and we may need to take a look at appropriating some funds to help clean that site up. Increasing the bonding amount for Breakneck Hill Farm Dump remediation. If you remember, we appropriated about 2.2 million bonding authorization for the project, and there's been some additional issues with asbestos on the site. I give kudos to Melissa Danza working with DEP on that, but there will be some additional bonding authorization that will need to be added to the original in order to complete the project. Looking at the CPA surcharge from 1% to 3%, which we did discuss this evening. Restructuring the Affordable House Trust Fund Committee and SHOPSI. Some amendments to the SAP bylaw. Some things that some minor items the Personnel Board needs to do, which they've looked at, more classification of positions than anything else. Looking at changing the date requirements for annual town meeting. Establishing a process for transferring affordable housing funds from CPA to Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee on an annual basis. This is a conversation the board has been trying to have with CPC, and that article will be predicated on that. There would need to be some funds to help clean up some anomalies with the with some of the transition that the SAP bylaw created with the new pay grid. A couple of things that we just need to tighten up. That money's going to come from overlay, so it's not going to have any impact on tax rate. Potential of adding hours to the EDC coordinator position was something else that was discussed. And finally, the last thing I have on the list was amending the pilot committee bylaw to reduce the membership from 7 to 5 members. So pretty administrative article.
Last one was requested by the chair of the pilot committee, Patty Fiore. So
how many articles is that?
About a dozen.
which is pretty typical. There was a dozen on the one that we did November 1st of 2021, where the downtown district was the centerpiece.
It sounded like more than that. That's fine. So no, 12 wasn't bad. I was having nightmares of another 30 article evening or 2 days. So
and Mark, remind everybody for the date.
Yeah, Monday, September 30th, at 7 p.m. Trotter Auditorium. And the October 1st would be the second night if we need 2 nights.
Would we have who knows? Would we have certified free cash by then
Yes, we will.
if we did it?
Well, I said that too fast. September 30th. I said it too fast. Possibly. Possibly. Is Brian still on the Zoom?
No, that's why.
So I'm going to take it back, Andrew. I said it too fast. Possibly.
Yeah, I think that's a stretch. It could be a matter of days. Either side of the date.
So the point Andrew's trying to make, if we've got it certified, we could use that free cash to fund anything that is money related on these articles instead of increasing the budget for fiscal year 25.
Right.
So TBD, Andrew.
Right.
Okay. All right. So that's it. We will keep everybody posted as far as any changes to that. And again, it's very nice to see everybody.
Thank you. So for advisory, we'll stay on and select board will drop, and then we'll just handle doing a couple administrative things, our minutes and officers, etc.
Sam, can you make a motion to adjourn select board?
So move.
Second.
Roll call vote. Marguerite.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
And Cook is aye, 4-0. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Everybody.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
good night.
All right.
I'm gonna exit then, Andrew. I just made you
Yep.
the host.
Perfect. Thank you, Vanessa. Have a good night.
Good night.
All right.
Bring Claire over. All right, so let's start with our minutes from February, which I'm sure everybody remembers like yesterday. I'll start with the 13th. I only had one edit, Claire. On fourth page, line 33. I think you just spelled Larry's last name with a U instead of an E.
Oh, sorry, Larry.
No worries.
I have one before that.
People do it all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, are you talking about, I'm sorry, which night are we on here?
213.
213, okay, chronologically, thank you.
Yeah.
On line 9,
Yeah,
can you please add my name as not present? I'm nowhere listed at all, and I was not there, so.
oh, okay. You know what happens when you copy?
When I'm not there, you forget about me, it's fine.
All right. Any other edits? All right. Is there a motion to approve the 2/13/24 advisory committee minutes as amended?
Motion to approve.
Second. All
Second.
right. Roll call vote. Marcy? Larry?
Aye.
Howard?
Abstain?
Tim?
Aye.
And Andrew is aye. So 401. Claire. Next up, the 220 minutes. I didn't have, did anybody have any edits? I didn't have any.
No.
I didn't see anything.
All right, good job, Claire. Is there a motion to approve the 2/20/24 advisory committee minutes without edits?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second. All right, roll call vote. Tim?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Howard?
Aye?
Marcy?
Aye.
And Andrew's aye. 5-0. Last but not least, 228. Did anybody have any edits? The only one I had,
it's all news.
Claire, line 138.
Yeah,
I think you can delete which. I think you hit that which. It's just that is fine.
thank you.
I don't think I had any other ones. That's it. And Claire, some of these were ones with all the votes and stuff. So thank you for doing all the work to capture that.
Old news again.
Yeah. All right. Is there a
Still needs to be
motion
on
to
record,
approve
right? So,
the 228 advisory minutes as amended?
So moved.
second?
Is there a second? All right. Howard,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Marcy, and Andrew is aye. Awesome. Thanks everybody getting that caught up.
Wow. We're starting off
now
the
that
year, right?
new year, we're good.
Yeah.
Now that it is a new year, we should do our annual vote on officers. I'll start. Would anybody like to be chair?
You can raise your hand, Andrew.
I'm happy to serve in the capacity if nobody else wants it, but I'm certainly happy to let anybody else enjoy this position.
I nominate Andrew for chair.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Howard.
Aye.
Larry.
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Marcy,
Aye.
and Andrew will abstain. So 401. Um,
So
if I,
there was a motion there. Did I miss that?
yeah, motion,
Yes.
Tim nominated me for chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I
Okay.
seconded it.
Okay.
Howard seconded it.
Okay. Got it.
So Marcy is our current vice chair. Well, Marcy, if
And
you're
I-
interested in doing it again, or does anybody else have an interest in the position?
I didn't know we were talking about this tonight, but I'd be happy if anyone wanted to step forward and serve in the role. We can rotate on and off. So feel free if anyone would like to take a year or more.
But are you happy to do it again? Because I thought you did a great job.
I'm always happy to do it again, but thank you, Howard. But if anyone else is interested, feel free.
I nominate
All
Marcy.
right, then. Second.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Larry,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Howard,
Aye.
Andrew is aye. Marcy, you can vote or abstain.
I'll say aye. That's fine.
Yeah. All right.
I'm willing participant.
In the past, we had a secretary. I've just been basically working with Claire to get the minutes done, and really it's no additional effort. So unless anybody really wants to take that role, I'm happy just to keep working with Claire. It's not very burdensome. She does all the heavy lifting. All right, we'll keep it with 2 positions. Excellent. Any other business properly brought forth? So I don't have anything. The only other thing is update on NERI school committee work, building committee, like our usual business. Just that process keeps going. If you haven't, watching the last NERI building committee meeting is good, and trying to look at some of the documentation. There's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of work that's been done, a lot of challenging what they've been working on and the costs. The size has come down quite a bit. They've kind of moved from the site closer to the wetlands where the fields are now to actually being able to put it maybe directly on where NERI is today, which I think is an improvement, better soil and more compacted, et cetera. So that should be significant costs. Still waiting on final estimates, which will come in the next few weeks or so. Timeline is still pretty aggressive. I had pushback in one of our earlier meetings that at this point in time, I don't feel comfortable making a decision in August on which option we would bring forth to the town, and gave a list of kind of demands information that I would need. One being like a perk test of the property to make sure that it could sustain a septic system. They're hoping to do that in the next couple of weeks. So there's a few things that I asked for personally that I'd like to see, but that process is ongoing. And if you have a chance to follow the meetings, they're pretty laborious.
So since I haven't caught up on them yet, how does the size of the school play in with this? Forgive my candor, but the ridiculous MBTA thing, and how many additional students that's going to bring in.
The size doesn't, so the amount of students that are being used for the calculation has been done on 2 different demographic studies. MBTA was not necessarily factored in, but it is a pretty conservative number in terms of the amount of students that they kind of use for each grade. And the way that MBTA is looking right now in terms of the properties that planning board is putting forth doesn't look like it's going to be a large increase in population anytime soon. One of the properties is Madison Place, right? Mm-hmm. That would allow them to add, I think, 10 units. So of the 700 or 800 units that are part of the MBTA, my estimate is maybe in the next 5 years, you might see 80, maybe 100 units.
A little more
But that's, you
skeptical
know,
that if the ability to build is there, the builders are going to dive on it and they're going to build it. So, and the school is going to serve this town for a very long time. It will see that entire, if that goes through, you
Yeah.
will see that entire build out happen in the time the school is going to happen, and the school needs to accommodate that. Or we
well,
need
I
to
think
yeah.
the interesting part right now is one of the reasons why they can accommodate building the school on the Near East site is they can actually accommodate the current 2 grades at the other schools. So there is significant amount of space in our other schools existing. And then this school would be larger than the existing Neary, which are and would not no longer house the superintendent's office, which took about 6 classrooms worth. So we're adding 14. So it's the same 14 classrooms right now. 5,000 square feet of it, roughly 5 or 6 classrooms worth, is occupied by the superintendent's office, which it no longer will. So again, there's some pretty significant, availability in each one of the schools. But I think
Andrew,
that's
at one of the public forums, somebody asked that question, and Jason said there's capacity at the schools as they are, which I was
correct.
surprised by.
Yeah.
I can't recall how much he said, but it was still surprising to me.
Yeah, it seems like we could probably absorb it, but probably a 20 or 30% increase in the population, and it seemed, which was surprising to me. But again, that's more of a superintendent's bailiwick than advisories. But I wasn't too concerned with the numbers.
Thanks.
But, all right, and we can have it certainly. I think it's worth having a meeting once we kind of finalize the options, certainly prior to town meeting, to go over all the idiosyncrasies of it, because there's a lot of moving pieces to it. The costs are going to be significant, and it's going to put our town finances in a real serious bind, depending on which option we pick. So advisory certainly needs to understand all that and the impact of our bond rating, et cetera, what this would do. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Public comment? All right. Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Larry made a motion to adjourn.
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Marcy
You're
seconded.
raising
Okay.
your hand.
All
I
right.
second.
Marcy,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
Howard,
Hi.
Tim,
Aye.
Andrew is aye. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Seeing everyone. Good night.
Night.
Good night.